Hello YouTube, and welcome to Model Railroad Operations and to another SCR update video. This is update video number 3, and I'm glad to say a significant amount of progress has been made, and I have achieved my goal of being able to run trains continuously and do some operations before starting the school year. So that means I have constructed and gotten track on both the second level, sort of the main benchwork, and also the industrial section over the west wall helix, which, as you can see, was a pretty interesting undertaking. So these first few shots here are of the second level benchwork going in. As you can see, it's terraced inward from the first level. That's to allow for better access because, as you can probably see, there's not a whole lot of space between the levels, only about 11 inches or so. But I managed to make it work, and I haven't had any problems with that spacing since. And along with the second level, I also, or rather, my dad suggested, because he was the one kind of helping me with the bench work, that we put in the third level bench work as well. So we did that too, and it's really coming along nicely. So as you can see with those mirrors there, the staging yards are all manual switches, so I had to put in those mirrors for my own, so that I can actually see the staging tracks and whatnot. But thankfully those mirrors really help out, especially with the layout lighting. And the lighting was done just with some LED strips, and I have to say they look pretty good. And at this point, you can see the third level benchwork is pretty much in as well. And later on, I even went so far as to glue foam down, as you can see in this shot. I only did 1 inch of foam on the third level, whereas I did 2 on the second. Here's kind of a greater panoramic shot of the room, and you can see all 3 levels in place, more or less. And now I'm weighing down the foam after gluing it in place using caulk adhesive. And now I am getting out the paper track plan to trace out where the center lines of all the track will go, and I'm glad to say that that really helped out. So now I'm testing out what the helix section will look like, and obviously this switch, this yard ladder, if you will, takes up the entire sort of test piece I put on there, so I had to come up with some sort of solution for that. And also, another thing I did was I started experimenting with some scenery. So, as you can see, I'm putting down some foam. After that, I shaped that with a hot wire knife and added sculpt mold. But this time, I also used some of that Great Stuff gap filler, which is kind of a foam material, and sprayed that down. And the result was okay. Again, I'm just testing out techniques here. And the scenery looked all right, but I'm definitely going to want to go back. It's not quite what I intend for this layout to look. Now I'm cutting in I'm cutting out the foam for the 2 water features on the second level. And at this point, I'm starting to lay the roadbed for the second level. And now we're going to go on a bit of a tangent and show off one of my weathering projects. I recently got an airbrush, as you can see by the spray booth there. And this is my first serious steam locomotive weathering. It's a Broadway Limited Paragon 4 Santa Fe Mikado, which I did as Sierra Central 3525. And I did the whole airbrush weathering, gave it road grime, gave it lime buildup, gave it a good matte coat. And here is a test run on the layout. So check it out. So as you can see there with the scenery, even just a little bit of scenery really just makes any part of a layout look just a million times better. So now I'm laying in the roadbed and getting ready to lay track on the second level to complete the loop. And I'm bringing in the helix from the east wall, and I'm cutting out another section for a bridge for the truss bridge that we'll see later. And now I'm starting to lay the track in the yard area, representing a fictitious rendition of the town of Angels Camp. So laying track for the lumber mill, sort of classification yard, and freight house siding. So prior to getting my bridge kits, I just temporarily put a couple pieces of track in place of the bridges and put them on some foam supports just so I could run trains in the full circle and therefore achieve my goal. So that's kind of the crowning moment right there, at least until I got the bridges. And now I'm getting ready to lay track in the West Wall Helix industrial area, laying out the paper track plan. And the way I got around the height difference was with a very steep section of gator board, which I laid pretty much all the turnouts on. And now I actually am putting the bridges in, starting with this plate girder. And over here I have a Walthers through truss bridge. Both those bridges are Walthers kits, by the way. I just find them probably the simplest to build, most straightforward, and I just like them. They look pretty good. And up above is third level, and you can really see how the whole thing is kind of coming together at this point. So now I'm laying track on the industrial section, weighing it down, and yeah, unfortunately, I'm having some problems with this right now because the switches kind of need to be powered, and the engines can't really get through them as well as they should, and that sort of thing. Anyways, now it's time for the inaugural around the layout run, following a train of weathered equipment as well as some other stuff that I just had on the layout, pulled by the aforementioned 3525. So without further ado, sit back and enjoy this inaugural run around the layout, which I'm happy to say went off almost without a hitch. So enjoy it. So I also had a bit of an outing to Oakland to pick up an engine I purchased from Miles Callan, known on YouTube as Interurban Era. Along with his YouTube channel, he also has a model railroad, custom model railroad business where he'll build layouts, paint, weather engines and rolling stock, etc., etc. And so I had a lot of fun. Going to his workshop and running trains on his layout, which is the Alta, California. And even though the actual layout is really just a glorified loop of track, it was a lot of fun to run on nonetheless, and it has a really interesting concept behind it. Basically, if you're unaware, the Alta California is kind of a north-south version of the Western Pacific, running from Emeryville down through the Central Valley into Mexico before terminating at the port of Mazatlan. The scenes on his, really the two scenes on his layout, though, are of some street running in Oakland and a scene depicting Sonora, Mexico. And at the moment, the Sonora, Mexico scene is really the only scenic area of the layout because much of it is in the process of being rebuilt. But as you can see here, he did a very, very nice job with the scenery and whatnot. And he's got a great eye for details, as you can see in the little Mexican town and the river scene and the desert scene, the crossing. So I think he did a very nice job at what he models, and he's a great model railroader and a great person to hang out with in general. So here's a train going over the bridge on the desert scene here on the Alta, hauled by a Southern Pacific SD9. So this is a lot of fun to have.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And as you could hear by my voice in the background there, I also, on kind of a whim, purchased a couple of extra pieces of rolling stock along with picking up my engine that I had paid for it before. And in this scene right here, you can actually see the engine I picked up, which is a Union Pacific Baldwin VO1000 switcher, which is very nicely weathered. It wasn't done by him, but it was done by another local modeler, I think. And I think it looks really good. It's got a lot of really nice lighting effects. Unfortunately, I think I fried the decoder running it on my layout. So I'm going to have to do a factory reset, but that shouldn't be too difficult to achieve. But that was my little side outing to Oakland to visit Miles Callan, Interurban Era on YouTube. I'll link his channel in the description. And at this point, back on my own layout, I have built the engine shed and also decided to weather up an old Broadway Limited Paragon 2 NW2 switcher. So I really did a number on that one. And lastly, with the track in place, I decided to start testing out operations. And initially, I was using the JMRI car forwarding system. And I really like that because it's random. However, I feel that for the kind of railroad that I'm modeling, it's just not quite realistic enough. I want something that at least really resembles prototype paperwork, so I'm going to have to look more into that. But I think for the moment, for my own purposes of just running trains and moving cars around, JMRI is pretty good for that. So just one more shot of the switcher there. A couple more shots of the switcher. And lastly, my Rapido Southern Pacific SW1200, formerly Southern Pacific SW1200, came back from came back from Nico from Sonoma Scale Models, and it looks really good. And I got some video of it running. And that last photo you saw was a Balboa brass Rio Grande C21 locomotive, HON3 scale, and eventually that's going to have a decoder in it and have sound and all that sort of stuff. So I'll send it off to someone to do it for me. But anyways, to end this update video, here is some footage of the SW1200 operating on the layout, and I have to say it looks really good. Nico did a fantastic job with this engine. Looks great with the sort of Virginian and Ohio scheme that I came up for the layout. And what more can I say? It's a really nice engine, and I'm really looking forward to weathering it. So that concludes it for this update video. This is going to be kind of it for a while because I'm going back to school and everything, and I'm really not going to have any time to um, make any sort of content, given unfortunately given our current circumstances, but also because I'm going to be back at school, I'm going to have work and all that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't hold your breath for anything until December. So without further ado, that concludes it. Thanks for watching this layout update, and hope to all see you next time. So, from Model Railroad Operations, goodbye for now.